Oh, morning, Dennis.
Morning, Agnes.
Stick 'em up.
Oh, don't shoot, I'm just a messenger.
Pew, pew.
Don't shoot, I'm just a messenger.
Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Red from Red's Reviews and Interviews, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by actor Amos Glick. How are you today, Amos?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm excellent. Great to be here. Now, to start off, can you just introduce yourself, please? Tell us who you are.
Sure. My name is Amos Glick. You want more than that?
Yeah.
I am an actor who lives in North Hollywood. I've done all sorts of crazy things for my acting life. I've mostly done stage, political theater, comedy with a group out of San Francisco called the San Francisco Mime Troupe. Another big gig in my life was 9 years as a clown at the huge circus water spectacle in Las Vegas called Reve, which means to dream, or means the dream. And that was at the Wynn Casino in Las Vegas. On top of that, I've taught a bunch, done a whole bunch of improv, been in bands and played music, and done some TV and film, which is what we're here to talk about. I was recently
Yes.
Dennis the Mailman on WandaVision.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to discuss Wandavision in more detail later on. But first off, I want to go way back to see how this sort of acting career started. So what, sparked that interest in the first place? And what was your big break or first big production?
Well, all right. I really started doing acting in high school. Just bit parts and stuff like that, and getting interested in theater. I had always been kind of the class clown before that, so I was familiar with holding an audience and making people laugh. And then in college, I would say that's in earnest when I really kind of took it more seriously, and I guess you could say studied acting. And although I didn't get a degree in acting, I actually majored in biology.
Oh, wow.
And when I graduated college, even though I had a degree in science, I pretty much set my sights on doing the highest level of political theater and improvisational comedy, two separate things, and doing as much music as I could. But that was on the back burner. The focal point was trying to make my life in the world of comedic stage stuff as it applied to being an activist. And I did that for a long time and still dabble in it. But along the way, I became interested more primarily in the craft of improvisation and acting. And so got an agent and started auditioning for films and televisions and whatnot. And so it's just been a slow roll. I mean, I'm kind of an old soul for beginning in Hollywood. I just moved here in 2016. But I had a full life of doing stage and political theater, like I said, and circus and improv. So it's just a bit of a shift.
So I'm going to move on straight away to talk about WandaVision, because it's one of my favorite TV shows of all time, if I'm being honest. So what was the whole audition process like for that? How did you book the role?
It was a bit strange. First of all, it was the middle of COVID, so I hadn't worked. Let's see, I think I got it in August, the audition, and I had not been doing anything since late March, and I don't even know what it said. I think it just said Marvel project. It didn't have any specifics. I wouldn't have known what WandaVision was if I knew the name of it. And for the longest time, it had another name. Even when I got hired, it was called Big Red, which I think was the name of the production company, but alluding to the Scarlet Witch, I believe. But it wasn't until it maybe even might have been, I don't remember exactly. It could have been after I shot that I found out the actual title of it was WandaVision. Anyways, so I got 3 different pieces of script. One for a delivery man with a lot of dialogue, back and forth with a woman he was delivering to, commenting on how beautiful her lawn and flowers were. And the other one was a I read a piece of commercial copy, so I guess I was auditioning for, you know how there was the commercial man and woman?
Yeah.
I believe I was being considered for that as well. And then there was a third piece of copy that was a man and a wife doing some chore in the house and joking about that. And they were, I guess the first two were sort of 50s, 60s, and the last one was unclear what time period it was. But I did those three and then found out from my agent that I booked the delivery man for sure for one episode and maybe additional days, but it didn't say. So I had no idea what I was in for. And that was the audition process.
You must have seen that as such a big opportunity, though, right?
Well, at the time, it didn't feel any different to any other audition I do. I mean, being a new person in Hollywood, I typically, the 80% of what I audition for is 1-2 liners in television shows. Sometimes in movies, the parts tend to be a little bigger. And so I didn't know what I was in for because they're so secretive about their product, Marvel is, that you don't get any information. I had no information on anything. And when I got to set, I then realized some of the other names because you get a call sheet, so you know who's in it. But I didn't know who I was doing scenes with. I didn't know if I had dialogue, to be perfectly honest. My first day, I got there. They didn't usually you get a set of sides the night before when you get your call time. I got nothing. Didn't know what I was doing. After I booked the gig, I should say, I guess I went into my costume fitting where I tried on 8 to 10 costumes, and not versions of the same costume, but like clearly different costumes from different time periods. And they were saying, okay, we're going to try the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, all that stuff. But it's still, no one told me how many scenes I was going to be in, or if I was just doing one, or if I was definitely doing one from each decade. Although the character on my contract at first was called Delivery Man Through the Decades, but I only was booked for one episode, so I didn't know. So first episode, I didn't even say anything. I was just waving as they come through the neighborhood. Second episode, I show up, and it was my second day as well. And I got into a different mailman outfit. It was now the 60s. And the director said, okay, Amos, you got your lines ready? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have sides. I don't know what's going on. And this would happen periodically where I was kind of confused. And the director pulled me aside, gave me a little chat about the context of what was going on. All the people, the main people, Paul Bettany, Kathryn Hahn, Elizabeth Olsen, of course, knew everything that was going on, everything that was all the concepts behind it. I knew none of that. And they only even gave me little bits and pieces, the vaguest impression that I was in a reality that Wanda or someone had control of, and I didn't have control, and then I had a real life somewhere else. But they didn't tell me that I was a pizza delivery guy. I showed up and I was delivering pizzas that day. That's the first time I found that out.
So for all your time working on Wandavision, do you have a favorite memory?
Yeah, meeting Kathryn Hahn was, in the lead up, let's say, in the past 5 to 7 to 10 years, I've become aware of, this is just the way my mind works. I've become aware of 5 to 6 actresses who don't even necessarily look alike, but if you see one and then 6 months later you see another, they all have brunette, brown hair. They're all equally adept at comedy and drama. And I just started noticing these 3, 4, 5, 6 women, and I kept confusing them. And so I kept having to look them up because I was like, oh, God, they're so good. And to be really honest with you, several years ago, I decided that really Kathryn Hahn was my favorite out of this group. They're all terrific actresses. I won't bother telling their names right now, but because I'm singling out Kathryn Hahn as the best, but it's true for me. And so I really had this sort of slow creeping fandom of her. And a funny little side story is that because of COVID, we were all wearing our COVID masks, and we would wear them through rehearsal, especially that may have changed over the time, but like my first couple days on set, we would rehearse with the mask on, and then they would say pictures up, masks off, and we would start filming. And the whole time we had been rehearsing, I knew that was Elizabeth Olsen because I could tell because she was Wanda. The other woman, I didn't hear a name, so I didn't know who was in the scene with me. And I guess I did say morning, Agnes, but I still didn't know because I didn't have, like I said, I wasn't given my call sheet as far as knowing who was who, really, until that day after the scene. But I didn't realize it was Kathryn Hahn until we took our masks off and I was walking to the first shot. So I had this revelation as I was getting set for the first shot, and I had to turn to a production assistant and say, is that Kathryn Hahn? Have I just been rehearsing with Kathryn Hahn? Like, I had no idea. And I got kind of, gaga gooey. I got a little bit nervous in that way that you are around famous people, more so with Herb, just because I had been really particularly paying close attention to her work, and was really it was really great. And then the fact that she was so cool with me and so familiar, it was really wonderful.
So there were a bunch of fan theories specifically about your character. I personally thought he was working with, the villain Agnes. But did you get to hear these theories? What did you think of that as an actor?
Yes, I heard I could not hear about them.
Right.
I mean, kind of in my actor ego, and also just to see what was going on. Of course, you do a search with your name and either Wandavision or Dennis the Mailman, just to see what's out there and what the reviews are of the show. So I found out some stuff that way, but then I was just inundated with people like yourself, but maybe not people who have interview shows, but people who are super fans, who are making memes and asking questions and accusing me of certain things. And so I just found out from, friends texting me screenshots and memes and links, and it was endless. And what did I think about them? I thought it was really funny. I mean, some people really read into the smallest things a little too much. But yeah, pretty funny.
Well, you see, I was really convinced because of the Presto costume, and then Agnes had the rabbit, and then I saw a bunch of stuff online, so I thought that was like some sort of connection there.
Right, but I mean, there's no beyond the fact, like, here's the thing. I would love to know, I would have bet you $1,000 that the reason that the Presto logo was the Presto logo was because that's the delivery costume they found, and then they copied it and put it on the van. I could be totally wrong about that. Maybe it was 100% intentional, but it would be really fun to find out from the show creators if they put that in there intentionally to create suspicion, or was it literally a happenstance, and the connection between quote unquote magic and the fact that there was a rabbit in the episodes before. I have no idea, but it would be fun to find out. And of course, they didn't tell me anything. They never said, oh yeah, your costume is like this because, or we gave you this line in this scene, and now in the advertisement, the cartoon character's using a line or a word that's similar to the line you just had in the episode. They never linked any of that up for me. They never told me anything.
Mm-hmm. So how has playing Dennis the Mailman in Wandavision affected your life?
Well, just the attention. It's a massive worldwide product. I mean, the show was #1 everywhere for a certain amount of time. So just immediately being contacted from people all over the world, I'm a small character, so hundreds of people contacting me? No, but dozens, and which is, from everything else I've done, I've never gotten this kind of attention before. And then, you might be my 10th interview that I've done. And now they're all interviews like you, mostly young guys like yourself, who are super fans and have their own channel. Some people who've been doing it for a while. And then even my college when they found out I was doing this, reached out to me, and I took over their Instagram account for a day, and they wrote a feature article on me for the alumni magazine, or maybe even just their regular newspaper. I can't remember, and the website and stuff like that. So that kind of
Wow,
attention.
congratulations.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Let's say that somebody watching wants to be a professional actor. What advice would you give to them?
You got to go to school, man. You got to study. You got to get serious about it. You're not just going to wake up and be a star. You have to, it's like you have to, musicians do scales, right? If you're not doing that as an actor, you're not, it's not going to work for you. You have to understand the casting process. You have to know about casting directors and agents and the unions. So you got to learn all that stuff. So you got to, and acting schools teach how to act. They won't necessarily, or they try to, they won't necessarily teach you about the industry. So you just need to read up on it, do some research. I learned terms shooting on WandaVision that I didn't know in filmmaking that now will help me when I go to my next job. So you just got to take it seriously. I think people have this fantasy about being an actor and being a movie star. First, chances are you are not going to be a movie star. You won't be. So put that out of your mind. Think of it as trying to get a job. You just want to try to make enough money to live. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have dreams and aspirations, but you got to go out there, gain the skills, and then work your butt off trying to make it happen. Lastly, I would say, and this scene is becoming more and more important, and you're kind of doing it a little bit yourself, you have to create your own projects. Why? Because it'll teach you a lot about the art form, but also in the case of film and television, if you make a short video, even if it doesn't have the most amazing aesthetics, if it's you doing a pretty good job as an actor, then you've got stuff for your reel, your demo reel. And you can't just show up in Hollywood or London or New York with a reel. It has to start somewhere. So why not make your own stuff? I edit reels for friends, sort of as a side thing, at friends and people also not friends. And I use non-professional, homemade stuff as long as it's good and shows the actor in a good light all the time. It's totally viable. And then if you're making your own content and you know how to do that, then you might be able to become a player. I think every actor these days, unfortunately, it's not just enough to be an actor. You have to be a producer a little bit. And like I said, you're doing that. You produced this show. Good for you.
Thanks a lot, man, and I've really enjoyed talking with you today. So if anybody watching wants to, find you on social media, see what you're up to, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I probably won't add you as a friend on Facebook, but you can follow me. And I'm a little bit looser on Instagram. And then www.amosglick.com is kind of like clearinghouse. All my social media links are on there, and videos and links to other stuff.
That's perfect. Well, thank you once again, and I wish you a great weekend.
Thank you. Take care, and thanks for having me.